Okay, so my name is Natalie. I'm the Learning and Training Coordinator for the Hub, and I'll be guiding you through the newest module in our anger management series, which is Difficult Emotions and Substance Use. This webinar is designed to equip you with everything that you need to know about the module, followed by a demo. I'll also be providing some tips for facilitation best practices. And so with that said, let's go ahead and start with a brief introduction of the module. So in difficult emotions and substance use, participants have the opportunity to identify their core emotions and their level of emotional intensity using frameworks such as the anger iceberg and emotional thermometer, which promote further reflection on healthy versus unhealthy ways of coping with intense emotions. Participants gain a solid understanding of why people turn to substances to cope, why substances make emotions more intense, and how to cope with emotions in healthier ways. Participants also have a chance to reflect on their learning through scenarios, videos, and self-reflection. This module's goal is for participants to examine the complexity of emotions, particularly how anger impacts fear, grief, and shame, as well as how difficult emotions, anger, and substance abuse are related. With the aim of learning to recognize and react to their emotional landscape, even when challenging emotions and anger arise, participants will learn how to gauge the intensity of emotions. And there are a lot of goals that the participants will learn throughout the module, but the biggest ones, in my opinion, are how to name and identify emotions. They will explore where shame, fear, and grief are felt in the body. They'll explore the relationship between substance use, difficult emotions, and expressions of anger. And they'll also reflect on their own personal experiences with anger, if that's applicable to them. So it's a pretty loaded module. Participants will be using skills such as self-awareness and self-exploration, written and oral communication, critical reflection and thinking, self-regulation, and creative thinking as well. We'll be going over the topics of identifying anger and other emotions, substance use, difficult emotions, and anger. We'll also go over the emotional thermometer. I'll show you what that is in the module demo. And we'll also go through some scenarios so that the learners can apply what they're learning as they go along. So how modules use the following key elements in its curriculum design: information, dialogue prompts, interactive activities, mindfulness exercises, journals, quotes, and resources. And the best way, I think, to sort of review these with you today is to show you a module demo. So to start the module, you can select the Begin Module button. And I also recommend that you ensure all of your participants have a copy of a journal. So we begin by introducing to the participant what they will learn throughout their journey in the module. I recommend you ask a participant to read through the bullet points and provide any clarification as needed. And I'll just go over this with you. So in this module, we will be exploring various emotions that come from anger, how substance use influences anger, and why people turn to substances to numb emotions. We also look at what substance use and emotions can look like in different scenarios. And we'll also identify the intensity of our emotions using the emotional thermometer, which I will show you later on in the module. So we begin the module with a check-in, or this dialogue prompt. I find this helps participants get acquainted with the facilitator or with other participants if there are more than one. The facilitator guide includes dialogue prompts for this as well. I would recommend giving participants a bit of time to reflect on what their answer might be and asking them to share in a circle format. So in this case, participants will be sharing their name and one thing that brings them energy and joy. Rules of engagement allow the participants to set ground rules for the program. The facilitator should go around the room and have everyone share an idea. In my experience, sometimes the participants are more reluctant to share in the beginning. So to aid with this, we have a handy tool that is located through this light bulb icon at the top right corner. We have some suggestions for rules of engagement. So I recommend reading through the suggestions. And I always find that there are some folks who have a lot more suggestions after we get the ball rolling. But some important ones to highlight are respecting privacy. So everything shared in the room stays in the room. One person speaks at a time. We don't speak over each other. And it's also important that you let participants know that they are able to take space when they need, meaning if there is a topic that might be bringing up difficult emotions or triggers, they can take a break, step out of the room, and maybe do a breathing exercise. Here we're introduced to our first topic. We go a little bit into what emotions are. So I'll read this out. Emotions make up a large part of who we are, and it's natural to experience a wide range of emotions at varying levels of intensity. All emotions serve a purpose, so it is helpful to identify our emotions and where they may be coming from. However, it can be difficult to identify exactly what we're feeling because some emotions can be complex and have layers. It can also be hard to cope with difficult emotions, and we can sometimes find unhealthy ways to manage. So, this is just an introduction to some of the things we will be going over. And then we're brought to our first journal moments. So we're introduced to journal moments here, and these allow the user to reflect on the content that they're learning as they go along. You will see a handful of these throughout the module. So if we go ahead and select the Start Journal Moment, and then View Journal Questions, you can read out these questions to your participants, and the participants will be writing their answers in their journal, which again, they should have a copy of before programming begins, and that journal is located on the module card. So you can see here the first series of questions, a couple of them being, why is it important to identify our emotions and where they're coming from? Can you think of a common situation when it is more difficult for you to identify emotions? So these are really great introductory questions. As humans, we experience emotions that feel good, but naturally we can experience some unpleasant ones as well. To deal with unpleasant emotions, we may sometimes use unhealthy ways to cope. But first, we're going to be going over the anger iceberg metaphor. So most of an iceberg is hidden below the surface of water, and our emotions can work the same way. Similar to an iceberg, when we're angry, there can be other emotions hidden beneath the surface. So let's select, let's explore more. It's easy to see when someone is angry, but it's not always easy to see the underlying emotion that is triggering the anger. And we give an example of some underlying emotions here on the page. So let's further explore some common underlying emotions. We include these here because anger can be complex. When we feel angry, it's likely triggered by an underlying emotion. So you can select or have a participant select one of the emoticons on the screen. And once you do, some additional information will come up. And I recommend having a participant read aloud. We also provide examples of what fear might look like in the body. And we also include the definition here. Great. So the facilitator guide also provides discussions for a lot of these pages, and we provide a lot of opportunity for self-reflection through the module. For this page, we explore other emotions that people will commonly experience on a regular basis. So we have a chance here to follow up with some questions and ask the participants, which of these underlying emotions do you experience the most? Can you think of an example of when you use anger to mask one of these emotions? Here we have another journal moment. We like to add in journal moments at the end of every topic so that the participant can reflect on what they had just learned in the previous pages. And I do recommend providing the participants about 5 minutes to reflect on their questions and write them in their journal. Now, going into our next topic, the relationship between substance use and emotions. We add this in by introducing the notion that in times of stress, grief, or sadness, it's easy to turn to something that will give us short-term relief, even if that strategy is not healthy. We might not know healthy ways to cope, so we may turn to drugs or alcohol in an attempt to feel better and alleviate negative symptoms of our difficult to feel emotions. We're able to share here that substance use also directly affects our impulse control. When we use substances, our ability to think rationally and respond to situations in a healthy way is affected, and we're more likely to behave impulsively. Substances affect how the brain processes mood and emotions. On this page, we can select each card here and invite a participant to read the text that's shown on each card. So here we give participants the opportunity to take part in a 3-minute breathing practice. The practice of mindful breathing can help soothe our nervous system when we are feeling difficult emotions and can help us feel more grounded in our bodies. Now, if participants are reluctant to participate in the activity, you can select the Why This Works button, and it just gives a little bit more information as to why they might want to try it. I'll give you a sample of what the practice looks and feels like.
This practice is the 3-minute breathing space. The 3-minute breathing space is a brief practice that can be used when you find your thoughts or moods spiraling in a negative direction. The first thing we do with this practice, because we want to come into the present moment as quickly as we can, is to take a very definite posture. Choosing a posture where the back is straight but not stiff, letting the body express a sense of being present and awake, yet at ease.
Great. So after completing the practice and we feel grounded and calm, we can expand on our learning by using the emotional thermometer. So you can select, let's explore more. And participants can use a thermometer to select which of these statements here apply best to them. So you can see here as you slide the emoticon across the screen, you can see different levels of emotional intensity. The emotional thermometer can be used in moments of emotional intensity to understand where your feelings lie on the spectrum. So you can suggest to your participants that this is an excellent resource and can be used at any time that they feel they need help in understanding their emotions. We do include an emotional thermometer in the journal for them to reference when they need it. For this journal moment, we can practice using the emotional thermometer using the following questions. Think about a time when your anger was at a level 10 on the emotional thermometer. How did you feel or behave? Think about a time when your anger was at level 5 on the emotional thermometer. How did you feel or behave? Just a friendly reminder also, you don't have to memorize everything that I share with you in the webinar today. Everything that you need to know, including page content and discussion questions, is included in your facilitator guide, which is also located on the module card next to the journal. Here we have a quote by C.S. Lewis that reads, "I sat with my anger long enough until she told me that her real name was grief." We also follow up this quote with some discussion questions that I would recommend you prompt the participants to share out loud in circle format. And towards the end of the module here, we always include a take-home practice. And this practice is an opportunity to reflect on the knowledge and skills learned in this module on the participant's own time. And this take-home practice is the anger iceberg activity. So participants have a chance to reflect on the emotions they feel beneath or alongside anger on their very own anger iceberg, which is also located in the journal. So you can draw their attention to that. And then to close the module, everyone will share one emotion that they're currently feeling, where they feel the emotion in their body, and what level they're at on the emotional thermometer. Great. And then once we are finished with the module, we'll select the End Module button. And then we just want to select the record of participation. So who are the clients that were participating in the module? Now your client list that's located on your dashboard will populate on this record of participation page so that you can easily select which ones have joined. If you have forgotten to add a new client to that list, no problem. You can select the new client button at the top right. And then we just ask for some very general information. So you can select an avatar on behalf of the client as well as a color. And then just some general information like gender identity. They also don't have to answer if they don't want to. Ethnic identity and their age. And then we just want to select where the client is joining us from. So for example, maybe they have a detention order, or maybe they're a part of the health system. Wherever they're joining, you will just select that option, and then you'll be able to add the client. They'll show up at the top of the page, and you can easily select that there. Now, if you are a facilitator who's just reviewing the module, or maybe you want to practice facilitating the module ahead of time, which we always encourage, you can select the facilitator training button, and no data on your clients will be recorded. Before I let you go, I do want to inform you that I am always available if you have any questions or comments about the modules or your overall experience with Hub. It's truly my whole job to make sure that your experience with the Hub is the most meaningful and that your clients are getting everything that they can out of the programming. So you are free to give me a call or email me. And with that said, I hope you have a great rest of your day.